7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome to the Vegas Squares podcast. We are sitting here in the studio, kind of. Token Tony is still out and about on his world tour. He's signing books, kissing babies, and motorboating single moms. How's it going over there, Token?
Worse?
Could be worse.
Not bad. Plan for tomorrow is to see the Army-Navy game, actually. So,
Are you going to be at the Army-Navy game?
I'm going to be around the area, if not in it. Well,
okay, Army-Navy, I'm going to be inside of you. That's pretty cool. I mean, last college football game, I guess, regular season college football game of the year.
It's always an entertaining game, for sure.
Army going for back-to-back 10-win seasons. You see Navy with a shot?
No, I absolutely don't.
A resounding no.
I would lay Army minus the 6.5. I think it was earlier today, and I also would lean towards the over as well.
Interesting. What's the weather supposed to be like? It's Philly, right? They're playing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so. Yeah.
At the Link. Not the Link here in Vegas, but
They've had some bad weather. I remember the last 2 or 3 straight years they've played in some snowy conditions. It's been pretty rough. So yeah, that's one of those things that those two teams get together. It's a slugfest and it's slow pace because those offenses take so long. But
well, I mean, we this year, I think, with our
it's supposed to be 38, partially cloudy, maybe a few flakes here and there. But
not bad.
I'd say with our Picks and Chatter podcasts, we have given a salute because I think we've covered at least one of the armed forces in every episode.
Yeah,
Mostly Army, but I think we did Navy only when they played UCF, and I think we did Air Force a few times too. But
and we have a healthy respect for these teams too. I actually think we've gotten. I mean, we make mistakes all the time and say a lot of weird stuff, but I feel like we have a pretty healthy respect for these teams and what they can do. So it's always fun, yeah.
Speaking of weird stuff, we're going to get into some weird shit later on in the podcast, but I haven't introduced him yet. But Token Tony's on the phone. Tony Johnson is on my left here on mic 2. He's occupying Spike's spot this podcast because Spike does this weird 9-to-5 job thing. I don't know. It's strange.
These are really tough shoes to fill here, so I'm struggling and shaking as we speak, but I'm going to try to get through it. So.
Well, I mean, in fairness, although a different color, your beard is almost coming up into comparison of Spike's. So
we're rolling hard with it right now.
I don't know if you just forgot when No Shave November ended.
Yeah,
or if you're just
calendar's off.
Or if you're just going with this for
I'm just rolling with it.
Hey,
yeah.
right on.
It's a little bit warmer this time of the year, so
gotta respect it when you have no one to answer to, right?
That is true.
Yeah, fair enough. You have not been on the podcast in a few weeks. What has been going on with you? Obviously, Turkey Day and all that stuff has just passed us by. But
no, it's been good. I actually been keeping it pretty low key. Enjoying the time here. I like this lead up, and I know a lot of people don't really enjoy it all that much, but I enjoy the bowl season for what it is. I like to see what teams are doing and how a lot of times you'll see a lot of different looks, a lot of different personnel, obviously, with new players getting in there when other guys are preparing for NFL careers or there's injuries, or we get a lot of suspensions and things like that. So I actually always enjoy this time, and just don't take the games too seriously in the sense that you're not watching the regular grind of the season, and just enjoy it for what it is. And I always think it's a lot of fun.
Fair enough. Yeah, we got a lot. Even with college football, the majority of teams, or all of the teams, really not in play for the next 8 days or so. We obviously have the Heisman race, and among other things, we obviously are going to have our bowl preview podcast prediction show. And we want to first, before we get into this podcast, thank the sponsors, 12 Ounce Sports Radio, VGK Pop Sockets, and Chai Poker. Once again, want to give a shout-out to Chai Poker for putting on an awesome charity event. The first event he ever put on had 31 players. This one almost caught double. So, it's catching fire. Obviously, people are excited to come out for a good cause. And even the guys from the Boys and Girls Club, the two dudes who I don't know what their involvement is, but they're involved with the Boys and Girls Club of Southern Nevada. They came out and gave an extra special thank you to everybody who was a part of that at the South Point, I guess about a week ago now. So, with all that said, let's kind of jump in here. We talked about, there's not a lot of college football, but we do have the Heisman race. And what once was thought to be an overwhelming favorite in Tua Tagovailoa has since come back down to earth in the minds of the media based on Tua's injury, Kyler Murray's performance, and also Dwayne Haskins' performances as well. And this is sometimes a Prisoner of the Moment award, and sometimes it's a Body of Work award. And you could really make arguments for all of these quarterbacks, prisoners of the moment decisions, and also their body of work throughout the college football year. So we decided before we started this podcast that we all picked a name out of the hat, one of the three quarterbacks, Tagovailoa, Murray, and Haskins, and now we have to state their case. So I think this is going to be fun because I don't want to speak for you guys, but I believe I drew the quarterback that I did not want to have to state the case for, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. Because actually, despite the fact that he was the overwhelming favorite for most of the season, despite only, I believe he's thrown 8 passes in the fourth quarter of this entire season. And I understand that, they've been up big and everything, but just a quick little anecdote. I was not prepared to draw Tagovailoa, nor was I interested in defending him. So I will actually cede control here since I got to draft first. I will go last because I'm the host and that's what I can do here. So, Token Tony, you drew Haskins, who has definitely put, in my opinion, a body of work together that earned him this trip. So you right now are going to state your case for Dwayne Haskins winning the Heisman he is currently, correct me if I'm wrong, 10-1?
Yeah, so the only things that we have before you go, Token, I'll just review the odds quickly here. I only saw these on one of the Caribbean books, and unfortunately we're not getting anything from the Las Vegas-based books here anymore. Very, very tight race between Murray and Tua, but Haskins significantly longer odds. But the odds are a little bit more in your favor in the Caribbean books, obviously with less overhead. So they were 150-1 for Haskins. Tua was in second at plus 200. At plus 160, and the favorite is Murray at about minus 200. Is what it was. So. At least that was as of yesterday.
All right, Token. Dwayne Haskins, 151, pimp the long shot.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he does not win, but he does have a case to win this for sure this year. He set 2 Big Ten records this year, most passing yards in the single season with 4,580, and most passing touchdowns in the single season with 47. He also set records in the Big Ten championship game with 34 completions, yards of just 1 yard shy of 500, and 5 touchdowns. And the one loss that the team had this season, which was to Purdue, he attempted 73 passes, and his completion percentage was 67.1. He was definitely not the case that the Buckeyes lost that game, but the factor, I think, will be that loss overshining his portfolio of a chance to win the Heisman. I believe this player has the step to make it either another year if he plans to. If not, I think he'll be a decent case in NFL teams to come. So,
what is his class? Is he a junior?
He's a sophomore.
Okay, so he's going to be around at least 1 more year, and probably should, given
he should, yeah.
Probably should be given the Tua and what's Kyler Murray's class? Is he a junior?
He is, but he's drafted in the first round by the
Oakland A's.
Yeah, and he is, I guess, given them his word that he's going to play baseball after this season, and he's not even going to pursue an NFL career at least right away.
And I know we'll talk about that a little bit later because many are believing, and based on what I've seen, that may be the wrong decision for him.
Yeah, agreed.
So now we have Kyler Murray presented by Tony Johnson.
Exciting to have him here. This is some good stuff. So, as you talked about, Aaron, it looked like he was dead and gone. Everybody was dead and gone 3 or 4 weeks ago. That it was the Tua show. And to be quite frank with you, before I get into my guy here, I didn't really see a whole lot that Tua did to dissuade himself. Clearly, yes, I know he didn't have a very good game in the final one against Georgia, but he was also hurt in that game. So I don't think we should just completely come down on him for outright having a bad game when you're not 100% healthy or not even close, really. I thought it doesn't really seem to be fair to get all the people seem to be rallying against him right now. And as you correctly said, it's having not played a lot of fourth quarters makes it tough. But all of that, we have what we have, and I think statistically based, if we want to just start from there, I think that's really what puts Kyler Murray above everybody else at this point. It's just one of those things that it looked like he shined better than these other two players, especially down the stretch. That was what I was most impressed with. Is he seemed to get better as the season went on, and was already great early. So, again, total touchdowns, he's tied with Haskins. They both have 51 each. But Murray had 11 that came on the ground, and I think that's where the big separation is. All three of these guys are certainly good passers, but the clear winner here in being able to beat you on the ground is Murray compared to these two guys. Now, I mean, I think it might be argued that Tua is not exposed to as much running and certainly could be more viable on the ground, but for what it is, Kyler is unbelievable. And I think the other thing that speaks to me, at least, was how Baker Mayfield ran away with the award last year. And I'm 100% confident that Kyler Murray looked better this year in pretty much all facets of football. And we look at that total touchdown number, even just that one. Mayfield had 48 last year, 43 passing and 5 rushing, and Murray ends up with 40 and 11 for a total of 51. So he has more touchdowns. He was very close in passing yards. I know. Let's see here. We have 4,600 yards from Mayfield to 4,100 roughly of Murray. I'm rounding here a little bit, and which is shocking in the sense that Kyler had almost 900 yards rushing. So I really think that the whole body of work and how well he played down the stretch, to me, he was the best quarterback in college football. So if we take him as the best quarterback in college football, and these are the three guys we have working with here for the Heisman, I think you got to give it to him. And as the favorite now at minus 200, I'm not really sure how they came up with that number. It does seem to be a little bit of a stretch, but that's where I'd be.
That's fair enough. I mean, I think you hit every nail on the head with Kyler Murray, same as Token Tony with Dwayne Haskins. I mean, these guys have done everything possible that Tua's done, and sometimes even more. I will then state my case for Tua at this point because I believe that he has had this locked up since about week 6 or 7 of the college football year. Even despite not being able to finish, like as you said, the SEC championship. And yes, injury, while sometimes we like to say, hey, look, you really can't, lose your job to injury. You can't lose. You should be able to come back and no problems. I think ultimately at the base of voting for Heisman's best quarterback, best team, and without a doubt we can say that Alabama's probably the best team in America.
Sure.
So I take the best quarterback with the best team, despite the fact that conference championship did not go his way even before he left the game. Because he left the game down. And the thing is that's what we see. Prisoner of the moment. I think when it comes to the vote itself, it's going to be a lot closer than it was a month ago. All the way up to the point where I think Tua might actually need some West Coast votes, which most of the time an SEC voter or an SEC contender or a candidate can pretty much get all of the East and the Southeast and Midwest majority of the time. No sweat. I think we're going to get a vote where we see he earns the majority of first place votes, but I think a guy like Kyler Murray might creep up with the seconds and I don't know how they all do that as well as I'm not too in depth with it, but I think he's going to get enough first place votes along with his second places being Murray to keep this one close. However, I think being a West Coast guy, being a Hawaii guy, I think a lot of the West Coast voters may just look at that and say, too close to tell, I'm going to go with the West Coast guy. So, that being said, 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 8 actual passing attempts in any fourth quarter this season, 8 total passing attempts across all fourth quarters. I mean, you can't fault the guy when Saban wants to take his foot off the gas. So, at that being said, I believe Tua Tagovailoa is going to be the winner. But this may be, and I'll have to do some research, this may be the closest ballot we have had in the 2000s. I think the other closest one may have been Tebow's. I have to look at it.
Tebow's was very close. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that came to my mind right when you said that. I remember his being close, but I don't know about the actual, rest of them and how the voting goes. I don't pay that close of attention, to be honest with you. It's just more from the betting perspective and who actually wins for me. So, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I don't think, and again, maybe you have a difference of thought here as well, Token, but I don't remember 3 quarterbacks like this that were this dominant and this great in one single season. I can't remember from watching, being a college football fan for a while now.
Mark, not to interrupt here, but Mark Ingram edging out Toby Gerhart by 28 votes. 28 points, excuse me.
Okay.
Was the closest in recent memory. Tebow's is on here, but it was like 75 points.
Okay.
Bo Jackson beating Chuck Long by, what is that? I got to do the math here. Math is hard. 45 points. So you have Mark Ingram, Bo Jackson, then Tim Tebow.
Okay. I could see this one being similar to the Ingram comparison and size of difference in points. I mean, I think there will be somebody that wins by about 30 to 40 points or so, and I mean, I think Haskin had the best year out of everybody, but in public opinion, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Murray's probably going to take the cake with that one. So,
wow, how did Mark Ingram win that title? Toby Gerhart, 1,700 plus yards, 26 touchdowns. Ingram, 1,500 plus yards and 15 touchdowns. Played for Bama.
Probably the general bias, yeah, unfortunately.
yeah.
So, that would be my guess. But, yeah, I remember the year vaguely. Gerhart was a good runner, but I wouldn't consider him an upper echelon, elite, even Stanford runner compared to some of the others we've seen recently.
26 touchdowns in a season is pretty amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I would not have guessed that Bo Jackson would have had that close of a race to a guy who finished with under 3,000 yards and 26 touchdowns, an Iowa quarterback. So interesting, kind of look back at these margins. I mean, we talk about, Super Bowls and champions of any sport or conference or, any like that. You don't really always remember the loser in things like this. But,
Sure.
Bo Jackson is a Heisman, but how close he would have been to not being a Heisman. So it's things. Eric Crouch sneaking by Rex Grossman, 72 points. So that's another one.
Wow.
And then there's Tim Tebow. So, anyways, all right, well, so we've each made the case for our candidate. I still think even at, what'd you say it was, 150 to 1, you got to give a shot. You got to throw a couple bucks on Kyler Murray.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I agree.
At Haskins, you mean?
Yeah,
Haskins. Yeah.
Haskins.
Yeah, I was looking at a picture of Kyler Murray, and that just came out.
If he was 151,
If Kyler Murray was 150 to 1, there's
more than
a
a few bucks on it.
Denver Broncos glitch.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, let's kind of take a look. I know we're talking about having a bowl podcast, and we're gonna make a bowl bet. But is there any bowls just off the top that you are definitely interested in that aren't New Year's 6?
Yeah. So for me, it's. I think I'd mentioned this before the last time we were on. we did a podcast that was college football related, and
We do that from time to time.
yeah, every once in a while. And it's interesting because I like usually early in the week or right when the lines are coming out, I start to formulate opinions, really start to look at the games and things like that. And I felt that over the last few years, I've started to take this more seriously and really look at the results and figure out what's going on, that I think it's actually best to wait as long as you can. Certainly it's good to look at the games and get a feel for what's going on, but I think waiting and understanding how many coaches, we have a lot of coaching changes, obviously, and teams without a coach can certainly be affected. Teams with a new one already in place, sometimes that's there actually helping out, which is sort of weird. And now as the NFL draft looms and players seem to understand that being healthy is so vital, we have a lot more players than in past years that are skipping bowl games.
We've already got Ed Oliver.
Yes.
First one.
Really important players. Yeah, exactly. So it's really interesting how that goes. We get a lot of suspensions from academics as the year winds down, and also, of course, the disciplinary things that go along with the bowl season, people staying out late, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it behooves everyone. This is just a general thought from, and again, this is only coming from me just living through it and seeing how things can go down, that I think it's important to, if you're going to make a large wager on a game or you're really confident in a game, that's great. I think you should get something on it, early on or whatever, but I wouldn't actually put the entire wager on it early. I would wait just to make sure that things sort of play out the way you want it to play out, and you don't get like a whole handful of suspensions that come down all the way through. But that's just my first thought on it. I just want to throw that out there just for everyone, and if anyone disagrees, that's great too. It's just from what I've seen. But yes, anyways, getting back to what...
All right, let me try that question again.
Yeah.
As a non-bettor, are there any games that stand out to you?
I know. That was long. It was long-winded. I just wanted it to be said before
our betting
goes on.
Our betting forte. You can make your disclaimer on our betting podcast,
Okay,
on our bowl betting podcast.
Fair enough.
Yes, you are absolutely right.
Fair enough.
Not to shit on what you just said. I mean, with all of the different dynamics, especially the now new dynamic of, last year or 2 years ago we had Christian McCaffrey was the big name skipping the bowl, and everybody kind of poo-pooed that. And now it's looking like you said, in these games, where is Houston at this year as far as they're in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl against Army? That means shit to Ed Oliver.
Right.
Nothing.
For sure.
And, you're talking about, Kentucky is another team. I think they're in a bowl. They're in a bowl. They're in a far better bowl than they've been in a long time.
For sure, yeah. Penn State, yeah.
The Citrus Bowl against Penn State. But, does Allen play in that game?
Right.
So the things start to matter. So I don't mean to rain on everything you just said. It was just my question was I thought it was pretty basic.
I know. So did you want me to find a game that was not of the main two games of the playoff? Is that what you said, or are you including New Year's, or what?
You can do. All right, you can have New Year's 6, just no playoff. Obviously the playoff games are going to be awesome to watch.
Awesome.
That's a given.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so
but for me, just to throw it out there to give you an example, because it seems like you're having a hard time with this.
No, I just want to answer right.
I am excited to watch the North Texas Utah State game.
Oh,
Okay. That's one that I was thinking too, but
Really?
not up on my list, yeah.
Because
Wow.
I've watched the couple times I've watched Utah State, their offense is pretty high flying and dynamic. And North Texas is a team that has been interesting to watch this year, up and down, hardcore.
Yeah.
So
The
of the
report
beginning,
the report is for that one that North Texas's coach is not going to be coaching this game, but going to be on the sidelines, though.
that's a weird one.
Yeah.
Because he just took a job, right?
Yeah, I think it's Texas Tech or Texas A&M.
no, that's Utah State. You're talking about
Matt Wells just took a
you're
job.
talking Matt Wells, yeah.
Oh, okay, then, yeah.
Matt Wells just took the Texas Tech job?
And he's taking almost all of his staff, too. He's taking both coordinators,
yeah.
strength coaches, a lot of position coaches. He's taking virtually everybody. So it's really interesting, although he is in the bowl prep, which is exactly the point. I'm glad you brought this game up. And Seth Luttrell, the head coach for North Texas, is, from what I understand, the favorite to take over at Kansas State. So you have a lot of weird things in play here, and these are two teams that are probably not going to look like how they looked in the regular season at all. Because I agree, and normally this would have been a fantastic, awesome game. But
I still think the base is in play, though.
Okay.
Their basic offense is in play. Matt Wells may be gone, but Yeah, he's going to Texas Tech.
Yeah, which is interesting because he doesn't have any ties to Texas. But
He's got ties to a bigger bank account.
yeah, for sure. That would be the main draw, I would assume. And it's always been tough at Texas Tech. Not to get off a tangent here, but Texas Tech is
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, one of the harder places to recruit and to bring guys. And Cliff Kingsbury is regarded as a guy that was quite a good recruiter when he was an assistant, and even he struggled to get a lot of big time recruits there. I think it's just a tough spot, to be honest with you.
All right, let me try my question again.
I'm ready.
What matchup, non-college football playoff, or college football invitational, as I like to call it, are you most looking forward to watching, money or no money?
Yep. My answer is the Rose Bowl, Washington and Ohio State. And I think it's for some of the things we've briefly just mentioned here and other stuff of I like both teams, and they're both so different and in their dynamic of how they're comprised and what they do on both sides of the ball that I think just having that sort of matchup will lead to a lot of fun. This being Urban Meyer's last game, too, you don't know how that necessarily is going to go. Is there going to be a full prep leading into this game? Are players going to want to play for a guy type of thing, or do they not care? There's really a lot into play here. How much is Ryan Day involved in the head coaching type of duties? Is it you have that dichotomy,
duties.
which is just really sort of interesting to me. And then Washington is the cream of the crop of a professional looking college team. If you could name one that is maybe the most professional, you might go with Alabama, but a close second is probably Washington with how Chris Peterson runs that program. And they're very likely to show up. They have seniors all over the ball. They have 5 senior starters on offense, and they ended up with 6 on defense going into the final weeks of the season. They only start with 4, but they ended up with 6 senior starters. So I think it's a team that is actually going to be. It's a Rose Bowl. They're going to be there. Certainly, I think motivated anyway, but. My guess is that it'll be all the way.
Especially after that Fiesta Bowl showing last year too.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think you have 2 very talented teams that didn't play to their potential fully this year, and to see if we get both of them playing to their potential, I think the game will be excellent and incredibly entertaining. That would be the one I most look forward to.
Yeah, speaking of the Ohio State Buckeyes, obviously the news of the week was Urban Meyer. Quote unquote retiring, but also leaving that door just ever so slightly open with the exact phrase, "I believe I will not coach again." First initial thought, are you buying that?
I'm not. He's not exactly the most trustworthy kind of guy. Urban's not a guy I'd want to spend a whole lot of time with, I don't think. The only problem is he has this cyst in his brain that causes these migraines and things like that. That's really not going away. So if this continues to happen, and despite the fact he'll probably have a lot less stress in his life, which I know is a factor into this, and I have a friend who also gets migraine headaches, and it's a real thing, and it's really pretty debilitating. So I don't know. My guess is if this is a thing that gets worse as he gets into his senior life, that no, but Urban is not to be trusted with his word pretty much ever. So, no. Yeah, my answer is no. I don't trust him.
What do you think, Token?
I would say no, unless if they come up with some kind of medical thing to make his cyst kind of disappear, or at least be able to control it while on the field of play.
Maybe they'll be able to pop it and videotape it and put it on YouTube.
Absolutely, yeah. I love watching those videos.
Wow.
I was actually just going to say, I know that, you look at those and there's like a dark hole of YouTube, and I guess we found
there it is.
We found one of the target audience.
Not a shocker from this show that we have one of those. Yeah,
we have a pimple popper watcher. Oh my gosh.
So you got to name your game, sir, or whoever's next.
Yeah, Token. All right. Well, fair enough. Well, let's actually chat about Urban a little bit because.
Okay.
Stepping down at this point, each player on the Ohio State Buckeyes is going to be different because some players are going to view him as a father figure of sorts and they're going to see their dad quitting on them. And I don't mean to take this down an ugly road, but someone quitting on them has almost been the story of their life. So there's a lot of the players that probably see this as like, you are abandoning us no matter what you say, despite the medical condition that you're in. And then there's some who are going to say, you know what, this season has already been marred by enough distraction by you. It's probably best you just go so we can get on with our life. Ryan Day's been named the interim, correct? Or has he been named the head coach? So he will be the head coach going forward.
Yep.
Does that surprise you at all? I mean, that they wouldn't actually, and don't get me wrong, I'm only saying this because the program is Ohio State. You've had 2 top-notch, high-profile coaches over the last 20 years.
Yep.
In Tressel, and when did Cooper get fired? Probably about 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So roughly.
Yeah, right,
give or take a few years. But between Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer, you've had 2 top-notch, high-profile coaches, and to bring in a guy who the only reason we know who he is because he took over for Urban Meyer during his suspension. And the name was floated around there as the interim coach during Urban Meyer's short vacation, the first, 3 games of the year.
A little bit last year too. Some coaching changes last year. He was on the list. He got some interviews last year.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, are you surprised, either of you, that Ohio State wasted no time in really even searching or even saying, okay, after the season we'll look? And the reason I say that is because, you know what, I won't give mine. I'll let you guys give your thoughts first. So
go ahead, Token.
Yeah, I think they were kind of sold on Day, like how he performed as the interim coach in the first 3 games, and I think they're content with that choice right now. But moving forward, long term, I don't see it being as good as they think it could be. So,
I'm along the same wavelengths as you are, Token. I think that they, first of all, what's not to love about his experience on the offensive side of the ball, both in college and in the pros as well, and he's been pretty successful in both parts of being able to diagram and prepare for games, and apparently he's pretty well renowned for his X's and O's approach and handling different opponents really well. So I think in that sense, in the pure football coaching sense, he's very, very well regarded. So, but you bring up a really good point of there's a regular type of college football job, even in a big conference like a Power 5 conference. Coaching at Arkansas or something like that, or is going to bring obviously some challenges, but you're not dealing with nearly as much as you would with a program like Ohio State or any of the top tier programs where you have boosters to deal with and huge expectations and just a lot on your plate. It becomes more of a CEO kind of position than it is really coaching a lot of football. And so my worry is exactly what yours is, Token, is that he seems to be a really high quality football coach, but you have to be a high quality just administrator of a lot of things and variables to coach a team like this.
You're a fundraiser, you're a handshaker, you're a people pleaser, you're a recruiter, you're a father, you're a disciplinarian,
Yep.
and you're a football coach.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
this goes farther than just being an offensive coordinator.
Agreed.
So that's really where I'm shocked. That a question I have really is, if Ryan Day, if Urban Meyer says, I'm stepping down, Day's going to be my replacement, and Ohio State goes, well, would Urban Meyer really step down at that point?
It's interesting you say that. I was my guess is that had a little bit to do with this, and the fact that Day was named the quote successor. This
Like
was
that.
Yeah, and he was paid. He was actually given a raise 3 or 4 weeks ago, and said he was pretty much the coach in waiting.
Which we haven't seen since like Jimbo and Fisher and Bobby Bowden.
And that was kind of buried in the headlines. That was a classic news dump that Ohio State loves to do. This was like late on Friday when they did this as well. 3 or 4 weeks ago when they named basically a coach in waiting type of thing with Day. And I think some of us, as you said, were surprised by this. Now, the way he handled those 3 or 4 weeks, now, as you said, those were a finite, specified weeks where he knew, it was going to end at some point. And I think it's a lot easier to be in a job where you know that there's a finite beginning and end. But the way he handled, I think, that time and his professionalism from the get-go, from immediately dealing with the media. I watched that first media session. He was as polished and professional as you can be. As you see 20, 30-year coaches not look that good, and I think that was a huge, huge thing for Ohio State. They need to have some positive PR in that sense. A guy that I think they can count on to be on the up and up. And my guess is that Ryan Day is going to fit that bill really, really well. So, are you going to see a drop?
Yeah, it'll definitely help him go through the off season with everything that's happened in the last season and preseason moving forward. So,
yeah, I just think it's the right hire in that sense that they're pretty comfortable. They know what they're going to get.
Right.
But I mean, are you going to see a drop off in talent and recruiting and games won? I don't see how you don't get a drop off there. I mean, you go from one of the best coaches we've ever seen to a guy that's new. He's never done the job before. So yeah, I think
but he's also one of the guys that goes into your houses as well.
Yeah. Urban's doing. He was still doing a lot of that too.
No, I understand that, but I mean,
I think they have some potential, but I don't think he's as qualified.
Because his talent level may go down class to class, but his expectation level won't. And that's where I see. I mean, we haven't heard anything out of boosters that say we don't agree with this. I mean, it's been all quiet on the front, other than many people saying they stated their case for being in the playoff. But as far as naming the replacement, my initial thought was Ohio State. I mean, the only way you replace an Urban Meyer, instinctively to the boosters is you hire somebody bigger or better. But sometimes the hire like this, it turns out to be, look at Lincoln Riley. Turns out to be the better decision.
Yep.
I use him just as top of my head, but there's probably been a few, in that sense. Let's put it this way. Unless Nick Saban is going to Columbus, there's nobody better than Urban Meyer when it comes to college football.
I mean, you could make an argument for Dabo.
Okay, fair enough.
But no, but I agree. I mean, Urban's record speaks for itself. We can talk about his personally how he is, and he's had some recruiting issues as well, and some other scandalous stuff, and all that is viable. Again, I don't want to sit down and have dinner with the guy necessarily, but as a coach, he's.
Can we have Papa John's pizza? I'd do it. Remember that infamous photo of him after losing
the pizza and I remember that. But maybe top three for sure.
Maybe it's the Papa John's pizza that gave him the cyst on the brain because that shit's gross.
It's not very good. I agree. I mean, this is from a native Chicagoan. I don't really like any of the mass-produced pizzas, the chains, but that one might be one of, if not the worst. I don't know. Pizza Hut's like insane.
Pizza Hut's greasy.
Little Caesars is up there.
Yeah,
Little Caesars. You know who's underrated, and don't at me on this one, but Hungry Howie's. For the price to quality to taste,
I like the crust
proportion. Yeah. It's about on the same level price-wise as Little Caesars, but I'd say it's pretty damn good.
I've never had it, so I can't speak.
Well, there's one down the street. We should go get some.
Here we go. This is how it all starts.
This is how it starts.
Yeah. I've seen the sign, but I've never had it. So,
yeah.
So, all right. Well, now that we've long-winded your pick, Token, which game are you non-playoff looking forward to watching? Just as a non-better, just as a college football fan.
The one that's on top of my list is probably the Florida-Michigan and the Peach Bowl. I think that one's going to be a good tough defensive competition, and how the offenses handle the pressure coming forward from the other defenses. And I see this one being a low-scoring defensive affair that just almost seems like a chess match that just goes back and forth. So
now, I have a question for both of you guys. So the game, obviously the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, we know that it's played in Atlanta at the new Georgia Dome. Mm-hmm. The question I have is, who is going to have a bigger fan base at this game?
Mm-hmm.
How crazy is that? Gainesville's 5 hours away?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of snowbirds that still support Michigan that live down in Florida as well as down towards the southeast region that always try and go to Michigan games if they're in the area. Tickets aren't that expensive either. I mean, they're starting at $80, which is pretty reasonable.
Between
for,
tokens, looking at the ESPN website as we speak right now.
Apparently he is going up and down the list to see where they start. Yes.
I want to find the cheapest tickets. Oh, I found $6.
Yeah, there's going to be some of the lower bowls.
Baylor Vanderbilt, the Texas Bowl.
Oh, that's actually not bad. I mean, I expected it to be one of the...
Temple Duke sounds good for $8 too.
That's true. That's a value.
Good game.
Independence Bowl, yeah. The other one on my list though is Western Michigan against BYU in the Idaho Potato Bowl.
Ugh. But do you want to be in the winter?
You want to be in Boise?
Yeah. It's like being in Shreveport. I don't know if you really want to be in Shreveport, having been there a few times.
I mean, just for the matchup between the teams, I don't think I would go to this matchup.
I'm not going to lie. If I wasn't in the playoff as a college football team, I would want to be in the Bahamas Bowl.
Yeah, there you go.
That's where you want to be.
That's right.
All right. Well, I think this one's pretty easy to tell you what game I'm most looking forward to.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
I already think I know this one.
Oh.
And that is clearly...
Oh, no.
Tickets as low as $12, right?
Tickets are as low as $12.
Really?
That's
Wow.
probably a parking pass.
Yeah.
I already have my ticket for this game.
Oh.
I will be in attendance.
Nice. You going to pull that quick, 24-hour move that you did last year? That was pretty cool.
It is Buffalo versus Troy. No, I'm just kidding. It is UCF taking on LSU, and I am pulling somewhat of a 24-hour trip. So the game is on New Year's Day at 10 a.m. starting time.
Yeah, I saw how early it was. That's crazy. Or are they Mountain Time there, or is
No,
it?
they are when it falls back, it falls back to our
Got
time.
it. I couldn't remember. Okay.
Yeah, so when it springs ahead, or is it, when it springs ahead, I don't know, whatever the fuck it is. They're on the same time
You
we
know
are.
it's our time. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That's weird.
yeah, so anyways, I will be getting off of work the morning of New Year's Eve, so December 31st at 8 a.m. I will then be driving to Arizona, getting a hotel, staying the night, waking up, watching the game, driving back to Las Vegas, and going to work at midnight.
Nice.
So
I like it.
it's kind of a 24-hour,
Yeah, it counts.
if you think about it. This time I won't
Yeah.
be on a plane, though, so...
Are we going to get the daily look at on VegasSquares.com? I know you.
Maybe. That one was quite... I didn't have that one I had a freaking, Vegas Golden Knights game to go to,
That was fun.
and just happened to, during that Vegas Golden Knights game, get a hat trick during that game.
Oh, yeah, that's
And then
right.
the plane ride, they started throwing streamers everywhere. Did you read that article?
I did. It was fun. I enjoyed it, actually.
It was fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might
Yeah.
do something. It might not be as entertaining or as riveting, but I might put together a little trip report.
Nice.
For shout out to the hashtag 2+2 trip reports. You ever read those?
I do. Absolutely. I wrote one back in the day. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
I did. Yeah, we'll have to go through it one time.
What's
yeah.
your name on there?
Golf Baller 70?
Golf Baller 70. Was it a Vegas trip report?
Yeah.
When you didn't live here?
Yes.
Nice.
5 or 6 years ago. At least.
Yeah, I actually didn't know about 2+2 till about, I guess about 2.5 years ago. It was during the
Yeah.
World Series of 2015 or 16, and there was a party at one of the places I worked at the time, and it said 2P2 get together.
Yeah.
And of course, my first instinct was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah. Who are these
So
birds?
and it really looked like
It's, yeah, a bunch of
like
weird.
kids who had just emerged from their mother's basement.
Pretty weird.
It
I went to
was.
one of them myself at Aria. Yeah, it was weird.
This one was at PH.
Okay.
But then I asked somebody, and they said it was a poker forum, and
Yeah.
I've read it, dabbled in it off and on. I think I've posted 3 times in
Yeah.
it since I've been on it. And
Wide range of content.
speaking of threads, Spike actually has a thread on there, a very long thread. You should read that one.
Definitely.
That's
yeah.
actually how I got to know Spike.
Really.
Yes.
I didn't know that. What's it about? What's like the subject matter?
It's all over the board, dude.
Oh, okay.
It starts from 7 or 8 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't...
What section is it in?
Las Vegas lifestyle.
Okay.
Without giving too much of it away. All right, I'll just give you a cliffhanger to jump on because you're going to read it anyways. Mm-hmm. But Spike was married to a hooker at one point.
You had mentioned someone had mentioned this to me before. I didn't know if it was a joke or not.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke.
Now I know it's real.
It's not a joke.
It is.
So, and I only say that because it is out in the interweb space. So I'm not giving you some
right.
Spike's deepest, darkest Dr. Phil secrets.
Not out of the hooker closet. No, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, not out of the hooker closet. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's not something I'm soliciting from Spike. But anyways, so LSU UCF. So I'll probably put together a little trip report. The problem with my trip reports, I don't have my phone out like a tourist. I need to learn to just be like anything that I deem interesting. I'd rather have too many pictures than not enough. Right. I felt like on my last trip report, I didn't have enough pictures, and then all of a sudden, I found part of my trip report being mostly just pictures of my hotel room at that point. Didn't take a picture of the outside of the stadium until after the game was over. So, anyways, I'll make sure if I can do a trip report, I'll add more visual aids.
Have you been to Glendale before?
I have.
Yeah,
I have been.
Place.
I have been twice.
Oh, okay.
One was for a Cardinals. I forget who they played. I think they played the 49ers or something. And then the other time I went to to the Fiesta Bowl was the Fiesta Bowl. Well, the other time I went to State Farm Stadium was the Fiesta Bowl when UCF beat Baylor.
Oh, okay. Oh, you were there for that one. Okay, I remember that, yeah.
Which actually might be in my phone, but I have a picture with Robert Griffin III.
Nice.
Because right when we got out of the car, Baylor's bus was pulled up, and he was the first one off, ironically. He wasn't on the team at that point. He was actually rookie. Was he rookie of the year that year? Or whatever he was. That was the year he was Robert. He was RG3 before everything just shit the bed.
That was the year before they went like 0-12 the next
Something
year, or
like
1-11.
that,
Yeah, okay, got it.
But anyways, so that's the game.
Great
Obviously,
place.
I'm looking forward to. That is not the that's my playoff game. I'll call it that.
It should be a good game.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. The problem is you're stuck within a rock and a hard place because Greedy Williams has already declared that he's not going to play.
That's true.
And now, if UCF beats LSU, then LSU wasn't motivated. They're a 3-loss SEC team. It's the same narrative we had with Auburn last year.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, you're right.
So I don't want to. Yes, I do. I want to go off on this. So today, or I guess just recently, on Thursday. What's today? Today is Thursday.
Friday.
Well, it's Friday for the podcast. Right? No, today's Friday for the real life. I don't know what the fuck day it is. Today is Friday.
For the real life.
Today's Friday for the real life. Saturday for the podcast. But Thursday in real life.
Okay. Got our day straight. We're good.
Yeah. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said that UCF should address their strength of schedule issues that have held the Knights back in the college football playoff rankings. Which
amazing he said that. It really is.
I know. They should stop blaming everybody else. They were never given any serious consideration for the playoff. They will instead play LSU in the Fiesta Bowl. And this is a quote, if they'd like to be considered going forward, they need to look inward to address the issues that have held them back in the CFP rankings.
It is amazing. It really is. A lot.
Now, I think I've said this at least once on our Picks and Chatter podcast and our other podcasts.
Probably once a week at least, yeah.
I'm pretty sure no SEC teams, and I'm pretty sure no SEC teams have picked up the phone and dialed Orlando at this point. That being said, Mr. Sankey, I believe you should put out a memo to your SEC teams that say if Danny White calls, you pick up the phone and schedule a home and home. And I have a feeling Greg Sankey will not put that memo out in the offseason.
I think so.
No.
So
I would doubt that for sure.
I want to listen to this because it happened on Golic and Wingo. And
he said it live on
yeah.
Wow.
So look, I understand. Here we are a year removed from UCF basically just declaring itself national champion. I get it. The thing is I believe every UCF fan, every logical UCF fan, there's a couple crazies out there that fans for a reason.
More than a couple crazies. It's got a pretty big depth of weirdness. I don't know if you're on the Twitter scope of seeing all these things, but there's a lot of harsh lashing out, just unnecessarily.
But don't you think it goes both ways? I think I've seen it on Twitter. I think it's gone both ways, and I think Knight fans are tired of basically people who don't realize that just saying schedule better or join a conference like it's fucking you sprinkle pixie dust on this
I
program.
understand. I'm not saying that the other side makes sense.
No, I understand, but I'm saying, like, yes, there are some fanatical. I've gotten a little fanatical on Twitter as well. My point being is
You're
that,
fanatical, but I don't even think you're on the same realm as some of these other people.
well, unless you're talking
Oh,
about people
yeah,
threatening
that-
violence, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. You may have.
Okay.
And I think when the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, which by all accounts, by most people's account, is the best conference in college football. At least that's what a lot of people believe. I mean, when you win 7 straight titles, BCS titles, and I believe 2 of those BCS titles, both of your teams from your conference were in them. Regardless, they are the upper echelon of college football. I think after you make a statement like this, I think Danny White should be calling every single team in the Southeastern Conference all the way down to Vanderbilt and Tennessee, and he needs to record those conversations.
That'd be fun.
Wouldn't that?
Yeah.
Call whoever. I don't know. Find me. Give me an athletic director.
When these top teams before the last week usually schedule some crap team like Alabama Citadel this year,
Well, give us
they
the
need to
week
look at their
one.
strength of schedule.
Oh, absolutely. But for whatever reason, the thing is they determine the strength of schedules before the year even begins, and I'm okay with that. But I believe that strength of schedule number needs to change as the year goes on. And actually, there is a poll or whatever you want to call it that does actually, like, the committee kept saying 104th ranked strength of schedule for UCF, 104th ranked.
Yeah, I don't even look at that. I think it's stupid. I'm with you guys.
But actually, there's I want to say it's, I don't know. I don't want to get it wrong for fear of giving someone credit or not credit. But there is a strength of schedule indicator that updates throughout the season based on your schedule's performance of all the teams.
the way it should be, yeah.
Right. And UCF finished 37th, ahead of one playoff team. Notre Dame.
Yeah. They got a little unlucky with...
Which, look, UCF fans, well, for the most of us, have come to terms with about week 6, we're not gonna be in the playoffs. When we opened up at 15, it was like, all right, well, this ain't happening again.
Yeah, almost if you won every game like 100-0 or whatever.
But even then, like you said, we win every game, but
Get a ton of help. I mean, you need a lot.
But I mean, at some point, like he said, 25 straight games, no matter who's sitting in front of you. We talk about these schedules. These things come out. I mean, these things are scheduled for 3, 4, 5 years in advance. I mean, Louisville's on the schedule for 2022. That's 4 years from now. What's that Louisville program going to be? You know, we know what it was, and that's why Alabama scheduled them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Louisville right now is on a downswing, but I mean, they could be better then. I mean,
I would hope that they're better by then. Yeah, I don't know if they'll be an elite team, but a lot of unknown in 4 years. And as you said, Aaron, I think it's when you have to schedule so far in advance, it makes this a nearly impossible task when you're a team from a lower conference that isn't even getting a lot of responses from Power 5 teams. And I don't think there's an answer to any of this. I
think there's an exact answer because I think the answer is UCF athletic director Danny White contacts every team in the Southeastern Conference and records the conversation. Because I get it. I understand the other side. Why would Alabama play UCF? What good does it do for them? But at the same time, what good does Alabama beating the Citadel do other than pay Citadel?
No, it doesn't do anything. I agree. But even if you record these conversations, and even to get all the answers that we want,
I'm mostly kidding.
I know. But even if everyone turns them down, which I assume they would, then you still don't get anywhere as a UCF fan. You want action. You don't really care what people say. You want to see the action in place, and I just can't see that. Unfortunately, changing with the situation that's set up, and I'm with you guys. I think that sucks, and it's unfortunate. It doesn't make the game nearly as fun because all the fans want to see these games. Of course, we do.
Right, and the thing is UCF and others like this, Boise State, Utah State, Fresno State. I'm trying to think of teams before. I mean, North Dakota State walked in there and beat Iowa. A few years ago. We don't. We'd love to have them in Division I football, but that's not happening.
Great, yeah.
My point being is that teams, division, or programs like this are very cyclical. When you have these upstart squads like UCF over the last 2 years. There's no guarantee with having to recruit with Florida, Florida State, Miami, USF, and the rest of the country, because Florida's such a pipeline, that you're going to be able to reload like Alabama. So what I see in this spot is Alabama or other SEC schools going, okay, we'll schedule you in 2024 because we can, one, we don't know what you're going to be in 2024. Two, we can always pull the plug on this and pay the penalty because we're the SEC and we have the money to do it.
Especially with coaching. Another thing that we don't talk about is coaching changes too. These lower tier conferences are going to have more coaching changes and more turnover if they're going to still be great teams. And we've seen this with all kinds of teams like Cincinnati and others that have had great coaches go through. Temple's now had 2 almost back to back. And if you're going to be,
coaches know where the money is at.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's even harder because you're not going to be able to keep coaches.
Right.
That is what's so difficult. If UCF, if they have another great season next year, Heupel's going to be gone. I mean, it's just going to happen. And the more coaches,
especially
the more
if Lincoln
changeover.
Riley goes, who's to say Norman doesn't call up UCF?
Who knows?
I mean, Josh Heupel would be Scott Frost all over again.
Yeah, and that's probably, that would make a lot of sense in that aspect. So yeah, but you're going to make a mistake at some point. It's just impossible because there's a finite number of great coaches that you're going to unfortunately hire badly at some point if you have to keep hiring coaches, and it's going to go south, and it's really unfortunate.
Using the advanced S&P metric, which ranks teams using play-by-play data, UCF's schedule was 73rd toughest in the FBS. Ohio State 55th, Notre Dame 61st, Oklahoma 68th, and Clemson 76th. So they're right around the same situations here.
Yeah, nobody's talking about Clemson's schedule being abysmal this year.
And
the
it's not
ACC
their
being
fault.
horrible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the ACC
And that's
was
the
really
thing.
down. Yeah.
It's not the fault of Clemson. Yes, Clemson beat a lot of teams by a lot of points, but Florida State was terrible.
Oh,
I mean, who was
a lot of bad
Clemson's best win? I mean, Boston College, and they still beat them by almost 30 after the injuries.
Yeah, a lot of badness in the ACC, yeah.
It was a bad conference this year. I mean, look, and that's the thing. I mean, to look at UCF's side, their best win, not counting Cincinnati, was the Coastal Division champion Pitt Panthers.
Right.
Which, boy, at 6-7, that doesn't sound very good.
And we expected USF to be much better too.
Well,
and
they were
weren't,
ranked
so.
at one point, and then they kind of lost 5 in a row to finish the season.
But Pitt also lost to Notre Dame in a tight game as well, and all that too. I mean,
Who?
Notre Dame almost lost to Pitt. I mean, it was a close game.
Oh, sure.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, Notre
Okay.
Dame had some scares this year.
Yeah,
no
they
question.
did. I mean, Ball State. They almost lost to Ball State.
That was a very close game in the second half. That's right.
Yeah. And Pitt, I think they beat them by 5.
Vanderbilt was
Vanderbilt
close.
kept it. I think they only lost by 2 touchdowns.
I mean, what about USC? And I mean, that game was. Yeah, I know it never really looked in doubt per se, but that was a 7-point game or whatever it was. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. A 7-point victory is far better in the committee's
Not
eyes for
quality,
Notre Dame than it is for a 4-touchdown victory for UCF.
That's silly.
But that's the thing. Everybody's beat LSU, then we'll talk. But I believe that's the same narrative as beat Auburn, and then we'll talk. And it was like nothing changed in the narrative.
Then you got pushed off into another closet. And,
And then that brings me to my next point: is the join a conference. I mean, as if it's so easy. I mean, the only logical conference they could go into right now is the Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they can walk in the ACC and be the second best team this year.
This year they would have been, I believe, yes. I believe they would have been the second best team.
But, I mean...
Close, but yeah.
The Big 12 talked expansion when I believe they had 10 teams, when they brought in TCU and...
Big 12 you talking about?
Did I say Big 12? Did I say Big 10?
Yeah.
You said Big 10. I don't know.
My bad. I meant Big
No,
12.
I thought you said
Oh,
Big
okay.
12.
Because you could have been referring to the other...
Well, the Big
10
the Big
schools
10
that
took Nebraska...
Maryland.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about from the Big 12. And then Colorado dipped out to the Pac-12, leaving them with 10 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing with UCF joining the Big 12 is that's a lot of travel for teams both sides.
The farthest they would travel, correct me if I'm wrong, I have to look this up.
Iowa State.
It would be Ames, yeah. That's not terrible, but the thing is
It's not terrible, but it's a lot of cost and overhead and all that.
They'll take it.
But they'll take it because of the amount of money that they'll be getting.
In a heartbeat, for sure, yeah.
The amount of money they'd be getting from the revenue sharing would almost, I would say, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd say at least 5 times their budget that they have now.
That's why Hawaii stayed in the
easily,
Mountain
yeah.
West. They were going to go independent, but they were getting enough money from the Mountain West, and they get a stipend for travel too. That they stay in the Mountain West. So it's interesting how it all works out. Sometimes I know it's a totally different
Right, they got
situation, but
West Virginia and TCU joined the Big 12, giving them 8. They still have 10 teams.
yeah, they have 10.
So did they get down to 8? Is that what?
At one point, were they down to 8? Really?
Well, if they lost 2 at the Big 12,
Was that the same time though when there was all the realignment?
but they lost Colorado, they lost Nebraska. They had to lose other teams. I thought they did. Because they were the Big 12, they lost those 2 teams.
Well, they lost to Texas A&M.
Oh yeah, and they lost Texas A&M. You're right. And they lost Missouri.
Missouri, yeah.
Yeah,
Missouri.
so they lost 4 teams and then added 2.
There it is.
But I mean, if I'm the Big 12, I would love a presence in Florida.
Yeah.
And Houston too. I think everyone's kind of expecting Houston to be that next one to move forward.
Yeah, so you grab another
Big
Texas
market.
team, which is fine,
Yep.
and you grab a Florida team. And I believe Orlando is in the top 20 of markets.
Yeah, it's perfect. I think those 2 teams make
Yeah,
a ton of sense.
you definitely expand that market for the Big 12 for sure.
So as far as
There's-
joining a conference, P5, ball's in your court. We'd love to join a conference.
Yeah.
So it irks me, and you say that the fans get fanatical. My irking is when people are just like, schedule better and join a conference. As if it's that easy.
No, I know. I'm not saying, I don't like the other side of this.
I'm not saying you're sitting on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, from the first podcast
General
you ever
public.
did, you have made me dislike your take.
My take is really easy. I don't think this team is nearly as good as last year's team. I think last year's team was underrated. I think this year's team is overrated. I've been saying that since I'm not going to. I'm unwavering in that assessment.
I think this year's team is rated right. I can see what you're saying about underrated last year's team, but effectively the defense is better this year, scoring defense. And I believe, the toughest thing is I believe their schedule was worse this year. I will say that. And that's, again, through no fault of their own, USF was down this year. USF at the time last year was playing UCF for the title of Eastern Division champion and actually played maybe one of the best games of the year.
Yeah. No, it was not a positive schedule. But again, I don't fault them for that. We talked about the schedule thing. I don't get into that. It's, to me, just watching the team. I disagree with the defensive statement. I think the defense is pretty abysmal. I really think it's quite subpar.
But let me ask you this.
But Oklahoma's is too.
But that's the thing.
So
I look at scoring.
I
I look at scoring defense as more of an indicator than just total defense. Because I can let you in the NFL. We talked about this token. You and I and Spike. Teams walk up and down the field in between the 20s, no problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But letting a team into that painted section, that's what matters. And yes, there were a few games that you saw on national television, Temple, where they scored 40 points and put up. But I can walk down UCF's. Hi, welcome to the podcast. I can walk down UCF's lineup and show you games where they didn't. On national TV, Cincinnati put up 10, I believe. I'm going to go back and find the schedule here.
Sure.
Yeah, Cincinnati 38-13.
Yeah, they had some good games, and they played well against Pitt.
Pitt scored 14.
Yeah, sure. But they let Navy hang around.
They allowed 14 to Pitt. They allowed 20 to SMU.
We don't need to go down the whole schedule, but I get what you're saying.
You can't let Navy hang around. There were too many games that I think that this team was definitely not as good as last year, and that's fine. Again, I'm not trying to take away from their fact of being an undefeated team. It's hard to be an undefeated team no matter where you're at. FBS, FCS, I don't care. It's obviously difficult.
It's hard to do in 2 years in a row.
Yeah, for sure, and that's
with 2 different head coaches.
Right, and I come across as, like you like to say, as a Power 5 ball watcher or whatever. I'm just a guy that looks at it at what it is.
I'm glad you've accepted your fate and your role.
And I also think that another thing that isn't talked about is that, unfortunately, the advantage of being in a strong Power 5 conference is having to play a consistent schedule of more difficult conference teams week in and week out.
You put UCF in the
think
SEC, we're not having this conversation.
Right.
I get that. I'm fine with that.
But for what it is on the field currently, I think the team is ranked. I think they're ranked a little too high from what my pure rankings would be. But I actually think last year it was much closer than it should have been to them being a top 4 team. I thought they were really dominant last year, and that was an unstoppable team on both sides. Because I thought the defense. I disagree with you. I think the defense is really. I think there's a big change from last year to this year. And we just look at the talent. Look at the talent that they lost in that team. It makes logical sense. They didn't allow gashed rushing yards last year than they did this year. They were much more in control of games on a consistent basis. From what I saw, you watch more than I do, certainly. Although I watched more than half of their games, and that's just my only take here. But can they still beat LSU after all that said? Yeah, I think they can. The motivational factor or not, LSU is a very beatable team without a high-powered, insane offense to have to deal with. I think this is a much better matchup for them than it would be facing, one of those high-flying Big 12 type of teams. I actually think that would be a more difficult matchup where they have to get into a shootout and try to hang on with a backup quarterback. But here, in a game like this, where I don't think LSU is going to necessarily blow you out of the water on offense, I think this is another very winnable game for them. I really do. So,
yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, there's also talk that UF, the Florida Gators athletic director, dodged.
Oh, it's not Foley anymore?
It's not Foley anymore. It's Scott Strickland.
Oh.
Or Stan Strickland, or whatever the fuck his name is. Strickland is his last name. But there's talk that he dodged UCF and sent them out to the Fiesta Bowl, which I'm okay with personally because I live out here. And I wasn't going to be able to make the Peach Bowl this year because it fell on the 29th this year. And
is that where the other one would have been? It would have been the Peach Bowl?
Yeah. Well, they were due to go to the Peach Bowl again. And this is what kind of made me laugh.
I didn't see the whole rundown of how it all went down.
But the thing that makes me laugh is listen to this P5 narrative to try to explain it. So UCF got shipped to the Fiesta along with LSU, where Florida and Michigan are going to play in Atlanta. Now, Florida, I understand. But they shipped out UCF, and they said, basically what we wanted to do for our New Year's Six Bowls was make the travel proximity close so that every team could get the most amount of fan bases there, or most amount of their fan base there. You do realize where Florida and Arizona are, correct, in relation to each other?
Well, someone's going to have to go to Arizona. I mean,
well, why would Michigan not go to Arizona at that point?
Yeah, I guess they could have one of those teams. Yeah.
So
and there's still a Michigan fan base down in Arizona too. I mean,
but the fact of the matter is if you're talking about someone having to go to Arizona, let me look at the. I mean, you could have sent Texas to Arizona.
Yeah, someone has to take a plane ride to Arizona. There's
right.
No one that's close enough to be able to make it easy.
Well, Texas, I would say Texas is the closest.
Yeah, that is still
Utah.
a really, really long way to Arizona.
Yeah, you're right. Probably farther than Orlando. Yeah, probably.
Utah would be.
Nobody's driving from Austin to Phoenix. It's not happening. That's a day trip.
Austin to Phoenix? What is that? 15 hours? 20 hours?
That would be yes. That's what I'm saying. That's not
probably be about 20 hours.
Really
I could do that
drivable.
straight.
Well,
shut up.
Okay, that's not in theory with normal-ish people not watching weird YouTube videos. It is a
But clearly,
flight.
when they're talking about proximity, if they wanted to make the travel the easiest, sending UCF and LSU to Tempe or Glendale, Arizona, made exactly zero sense. And the problem is that they still. The problem is that the Rose Bowl game still has to have that Big Ten, Pac-10 feel. Pac-12, I guess now.
Oh, the Rose Bowl game is what it should be. Come on, that shouldn't.
Well,
be
we've
changed.
ripped all the other bowls. I mean, the Sugar Bowl used to be SEC, ACC every year.
Mm-hmm.
But now with the playoff, Clemson's not going to be in the Sugar Bowl.
There's still no tradition like the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl's been going on for decades longer than any of these specific
Our
conferences.
country's been going on
each
for
other.
hundreds of years, but that's changing too.
I'm not a traditionalist guy. I'm just saying that these two conferences, that played in the Sugar
I
Bowl,
know.
didn't do that 40, 50 years ago. That was a new age thing. The Rose Bowl, those two sides have been playing. And again, I don't care if they never do that again. That's fine. We can move on from the Rose Bowl situation too. But that I think they got right for sure.
Well, I mean, it's not like they got right. It's just that they that's the tradition.
That's what it is.
Pac-12 Washington, Big Ten Ohio State.
It's fine.
All right. Well, anyways, long-winded diatribe
They'll
about.
be well-attended
That's
games.
the game I
Both
want to
of them will
watch.
be, yeah, I mean,
I see a lot of things on message boards that UCF fans are having a hard time figuring out ways on New Year's Eve to get to Tempe or to Phoenix, Arizona.
fair enough.
So it is what it is. I mean, like you said, when you're upstart UCF and you want to play with the big boys, you go where you're told to go, and UCF's going to do it because they're going to get a nice fat check out of this too.
Yeah, I mean, will LSU travel in droves to Arizona? They may not.
Shit,
either.
Auburn didn't travel in droves to Atlanta.
That's right. So maybe that won't happen.
And that's my problem. It's like, okay, you know, and Ed Orgeron has already come out and said there will be no overlooking this team.
Yeah,
So we've got it right there.
That's the great thing about
We've got
Coach
it
O.
right
Coach
there.
O is an intense guy. Actually, that's why I kind of like this.
Greedy Williams or
situation.
not, we've got it right there. He's come out and said it front and center. There will be no overlooking this team.
He's a legit. You can say a lot of stuff about Coach O and whether he may or may not be a great LSU coach, but he does not take any crap, and he's an intense guy.
Well,
So,
I would say,
I like him.
in fairness, Coach O is probably, even though he signed a contract, Coach O is probably on more of a hot seat than Gus Malzahn was last year.
Right now?
You're always on the hot seat in the SEC.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, but what?
You're not supposed to lose to this team. Gus Malzahn, ever since he's lost to UCF, we've talked about him on that kind of slippery hot slope.
yeah,
seat
and
slope.
they had a rough season this year. Yes,
Right.
Gus is
I'm
clear.
saying it started with,
Yeah.
losing the SEC championship, losing to
Sure.
UCF when they were quote unquote not motivated.
Absolutely, but I mean,
If
he
they
comes
weren't
back-
motivated, Kerryon Johnson would not have played in that game.
yeah, no, I'm.
But he did.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it did not look like the same. It was not the same Auburn team that was crushing souls late in that regular season. I mean, that was a pretty obvious take to me. This LSU team is not as good as the Auburn team.
But then at
was
what point does UCF then that's where we come back to then the SEC needs to pick up the phone and schedule a week 1 through 4 matchup.
Fair. That's fine. But
Look,
they're not
I'm
comparable.
only directing this anger at you because you're sitting in front of me.
I understand, and that's fine.
I don't have the ear of what's his name again, Sankey. I don't have the ear of Greg Sankey.
That's just a stupid statement that he made. I mean, no one in their right mind would make a statement like that knows what's going on. I mean, that's just stupid. There's no defending that statement whether you want to or not.
Well, he's going to get away with it, though. What's he going to do? I mean, unless he sends out a memo saying someone schedule a home and home. I mean, I'll take Vanderbilt at this point. I'll take Tennessee at this point. Give me something.
Yeah.
Oh, Tennessee
I would say either of those two teams would
Tennessee.
be willing to.
Or give me Kentucky next year. Isn't Benny Snell sticking around? Or is he gone?
I don't see why he would stay, but maybe, I don't know.
Was he he's a junior, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he sticks around, give me Benny Snell. Give me Kentucky.
He should be gone.
Shit, I mean, there's only so much credit, and I'll agree. There's only so much credit you can get for beating Maryland's and North Carolina's and Georgia Tech's and Pitt's. But at the same time, this team is not going to get the ability or get the availability to play Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State. They did play Ohio State, I think, like in 2011. They only got beat by like 10 points. That was Bortles' first year. Anyways, I know I've bored you guys of UCF football, but I don't know if you know this, but it means a lot to me.
Oh. Yeah.
Which is funny because I also went to
yeah,
Florida State. So if at any time Florida State becomes on the rise again, you'll also have to deal with 2 teams at this point. But
that will not be nearly as much fun because I'm not a fan of that.
But they're in the shitter right now, so I only have to focus on one team.
I mean, for you have a bottle opener of UCF.
Yeah, I'm staring
Out
at
of your
it.
door.
I'm staring at it right now.
And there's a little winter sort of pillow-looking foofy thing on the door when you get into the house as well. That's UCF.
It's called a wreath, sir.
Oh, wreath, yeah. Okay.
A window poofy pillow thing.
I don't know. There's some sort of pillow in the middle.
Yes,
of it.
at my
That's all I
house there is a UCF wreath on the door. Yes.
know. All right, it's a wreath. Okay. All right.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, asshole. And a Happy New Year, too. All right,
The animal.
all right. I have taken up enough of your time. What would you guys like to talk about? Because I want to talk about these prop bets, too, and we only have about 17 minutes left in the...
We can go straight to that. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else, Token, that we've missed here in games? I know we're not going to get into fully depth of the games and betting wise here, but
Yeah, we got a prop bet podcast coming out for the bowl games, and I know Tony Johnson has already put his disclaimer on it.
I think it's an important thing to say.
I agree with
Yeah,
you, but
okay.
for the purposes of our
It was not- it was
recreational
not for the
prop
right
bet,
spot. Okay.
we are going to make...
Understandable.
Well, I will give you a little tease, though. it's not going to be like our NFL bet. We are going to pick every game of the bowl season
really?
against the spread.
Oh, God. Can we not do that? That's a lot of games.
It's what, 30?
41, I think.
It's a lot of games, Aaron.
So have fun.
All right.
All right. Well, so okay. Let's look then. I gotta pull back up the bowl schedule.
I believe there are 41 total.
Yeah, I actually think Token is right about this. He's closer than you are to the real number.
No, I don't disagree. I'm just saying there's maybe some bowl games that we don't want to pick, and we'll have that. I mean, I know that it doesn't sound like you really want to pick North Carolina A&T versus Alcorn State.
Well, that's not an official bowl, but yeah, I mean
You're not an official bowl.
That's true too.
There's 40.
The Celebration Bowl I'm not counting because that's FCS. So
Fair enough.
however, I am enjoying.
I picked
the
the band
FCS.
in that game.
Band.
I'm going to take the band.
There are some good FCS matchups actually this week. I guess people are listening to this on Saturday, so you're seeing them right now. But we got some good games, and but no, we can talk about the weird prop bets. That's fine, and then we'll.
I just found these funny because I came across these the other day when I was fucking around on MyBookie. But I want to run these by you. Let's make some picks. All right. So the first prop bet I found, and this one I still don't understand. I guess there's going to be a declaration or a decree or what. But on mybookie.ag, it's under the special props section, current events. The wager cutoff is December 12th. So if you're listening to this now, it would be the 8th. So was that Tuesday?
Get your bets in now. Get them in.
The official shape on January 1st, 2020 of planet Earth will be round minus 10,000 or flat plus 7,500. Who determines, who's going to make that decree or declaration and change or make it, I guess we do have flat earthers and round earthers, but
I wonder if it's going to be a guy with a metal helmet.
Or Kyrie Irving. Either way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's, I mean, not Kyrie Irving, obviously, but like, who's the most powerful person on the planet? Is it Donald Trump?
Maybe Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know.
Oh, no, fuck that guy. But I don't think it's Donald Trump. It's probably financially somebody in Dubai or something. My point being is for purposes, the leader of the free world.
I'll take Zuck. With the information he knows, I'll take Zuck.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways, I still think the leader of the free world's, at least on a collective face value, is probably the most powerful.
That's fair.
Does he make this declaration? And if so, how do I convince him to say that the world is flat so I can win my plus 7,500?
That's really the key of where this goes down to is how can we, this needs to be corrupted somehow so we can get that 75-1 to come home.
So the reason I ask that is because the next prop bet is President Trump is the person who issues the decree that the earth is flat.
There it is. Yeah.
Yes, plus 135, no, minus 175.
I'd probably take the no on that.
So you think someone else will decree that the earth is flat?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Who are we declaring this official? I don't think it'd be Zuckerberg make this declaration.
Nope. No, it's not his role.
No, I think he's still trying to clean up the ad blocks and stuff, or the beta trackers. Mm-hmm. The one I liked is, all right, will El Chapo escape from prison again? The yes is plus 2,000, the no is minus 10,000. He's already done it once, I think.
Yeah.
At least once.
Ooh, and how long do you have?
The cutoff is the 13th of December to bet this.
Right.
Because I think the trial starts very soon.
And you get, through his lifespan before he's dead to escape again?
I don't know. It's very vague, and it's a sports book. They're very vague.
I understand. But, I mean, if you get a lot of years, that does seem like that seems pretty legit.
The other one is, will he die in prison before the trial ends? The yes is plus 500, the no is minus 900.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I didn't think about that, I guess.
Before the
trial
on this one count or trial on different counts, though?
Don't they usually try them all at the same time?
Well, I mean, but there could also be different counts of...
You might get one murder trial here
try,
and then another one in 2 years. I think that's what he's trying to say. I know none of these answers, so maybe. But I didn't even think about the thought of dying in prison. I guess that's probably something that should be thought about. Yeah. But I like the escape one at 20-1. I like him escaping.
I think there's some value, yeah.
Yeah, especially if he's already done it. I mean, this is we could bring us right back to real sports here. You know, you're getting an underdog that's already shown that they can they can do something and play with the big guys, that's it. That's what we want.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is during Trump's presidency. You can wager on this before January 1st, 2019. So you have the end of this year.
Time. Okay.
During Trump's presidency, will humans land on Mars? Yes, plus 1,000. No, minus 2,000.
I'd take the no for sure.
It would need some sort of significant proof, I would assume, of that. So you could land on Mars but not have any proof that it happens, which is interesting.
I would imagine if we finally land on Mars, there would be some photographic proof of that.
Yeah, you would need to.
Well, landing on Mars is a huge accomplishment because nothing, well, depending on who you believe, nothing's been able to survive on Mars.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So if you get there, can you prove that you were there? Yeah, that's my whole. Does it, tree falls in the forest, type of deal. So.
That's fair, yeah. All right, let's look. There's some other crazy ones over here, too. Okay. The other one was, will Elon Musk take Tesla private off the stock market before 2020?
That's been talked about before.
Yes,
already.
minus 130, no, minus 110.
That's actually one of the first, actually, I think, legit type of wager that I know. I follow a little bit from Tesla that they want to have a little bit more leeway and not have to report. And the main thing is not reporting quarters because they don't really care a lot about specific type of revenue and how much they have to disclose to the SEC being a public company. So that does seem like a very viable one, but even as a small favorite.
I'd probably lean towards the yes.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, in August, he tweeted out he's considering taking Tesla private at 420. Yeah. He's got the funding secured. So I don't know what their stock price is right now, but I would imagine if he's going to take a company like that private, I don't know, let's look up their stock price. Curious. I mean, again, this was in August, so their stock price from August to now may have changed. Probably if a lot of it's been bought too, but
yeah, they rose for a while last month, but now we've had obviously a significant regression overall.
Their stock price right now is $357, $358 pretty much.
So can you find out what may have been around August 7th or somewhere in that area?
Yeah.
Just take the slider back.
Yeah.
But
August 7th.
Let's see, on August 7th, if you were thinking about buying Tesla at...
It was $379.
So, same basic price. 420 is, what is that, $50? $50 a share you would profit off?
Well, you wouldn't have to worry about getting high on Joe Rogan podcast and have the blowback from that.
It's true.
Private company, he's got a little more leeway. It'd be fun.
All right, the next one, another one of my favorites. Will the Titanic 2 sink in its maiden voyage?
I didn't know they were building one.
I didn't either.
I actually did know this.
Of course you did, Duncan.
Would you find it? Was it an ad in one of your pimple videos? All right, well, tell us about it there. The Titanic. All right, let me give you the odds. The Titanic. Hold on. The Titanic 2. The yes, it will sink is plus 2,000. The no is minus 5K.
I would take the no, just because, quote unquote, global warming and the melting of icebergs and all that.
Yes, I like it. I like where you're at.
Why don't they just sail it in August? With global warming, there should be no icebergs.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Caribbean too, it'll be okay.
No, I heard that they're building an exact replica, like almost down to the T of what the original Titanic was.
Hopefully, it's not just down to the T because there's two T's in Titanic. Hopefully, it's down to both T's.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe even the material is supposed to be comparable, but a little more higher quality. So
I would hope we made some strides over.
I believe the technology's gotten better in the last. I believe that was 106 years ago.
Wow.
No one's alive from Titanic anymore, right? They can't be.
No.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Wrong.
That's been.
I doubt it. Yeah.
Unless they were
Unless if they were
infants. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, my favorite bet, and we'll wrap up on this one. This one made me laugh, and I'm still laughing, but I'm trying to keep it together on the podcast. Are you guys ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're familiar, obviously, with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the royal wedding, I guess the last royal wedding.
I know of them. I know nothing more.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. I know you follow the story.
Closely. Secretly.
You're a royal family ball washer.
There it is.
All right,
There it
so
is.
the bet, I will give you the odds. The yes is plus 1,000, the no is minus 2,000.
She's an American, right?
She is. Will Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's baby be a ginger?
I like how it's phrased too.
That's exactly
the
what
wording
it
is
is.
great.
Be a ginger.
It's pretty good.
That's a good question, though, because I believe she is, like, half black. So you have, like, a half white, half black with, like, a full-blown ginger. Like Carson Wentz's doppelganger.
Right.
There's a... that would be a... What if it was, like, a light-skinned black kid with red hair? Can that be possible?
There's probably some
Like
statistics that you could take a shot at this. I would guess that you could probably figure out and quantify this equation a little bit. I know it sounds weird, but I would assume that there's some known.
It'd be like a cousin Skeeter mixed with Chucky Finster. You're older than me. Those references don't hit you.
No, don't know what that was.
Do you remember Chucky Finster from the Rugrats? Or was
I
that-
remember, yeah.
I know the Rugrats, but I don't know. I know the names. I've heard of the characters.
Chucky
but
was the redheaded with the glasses.
Got it.
Anyways, it went above
Yeah.
you. Sorry. You're too
What
old.
I'm looking at right now, if both
Okay.
parents carry the gene, just 1 out of 4 chance that they would likely be a ginger.
Or maybe it would be like Kareem Hunt mixed with Spike.
Wow. That was weird.
Kareem Hunt's just on my computer screen and
That
Spike's
was
got red hair.
Wow. I don't even know what to say about that. That was strange.
I killed
That
Token.
took a weird turn. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that went to the left field. All right, well, now I have to figure out what bowl games to leave out now because you don't want to do them all. Anyways, what
I'll
about...
do them all, I don't care.
All right, well, let's talk about a few more things before we wrap
That's
up.
very hard to do.
No, it's very fun to do.
Okay.
It is very fun to do.
I saved this one for you, Tony Johnson, because you and I got a kick out of this before the show. But
All right.
Hugh Freeze getting the job at Liberty.
Oh yeah, that is pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, what more can you say? Hugh will, I think, take anything. You're tired and wretched, and he'll go anywhere and do anything. And this was.
Are we still talking about the hooker, or are we talking about the job?
Well, that was I was sort of leading into that. Actually, yes, very nicely done. Hugh.
I feel like I want to party with Hugh Freeze in Vegas.
You know, again, I'm not saying that wouldn't necessarily be enjoyable. Hugh does seem like he'd be an interesting guy, especially coming from the super southern style background. I think he probably would be a lot of fun in a specified given time. But I don't know. I mean, the Liberty thing, they're in transition not only to the FBS, but trying to get into a conference. That hasn't actually been settled yet.
Watch them get in the Big 12.
Yeah, which is the but that's,
UCF, you're not good enough. Liberty, what up?
that was the point I was trying to bring. I'm not to be too serious about this, but like I think that
Are you
might be-
eating chips on the phone?
It sounds like it, yeah.
No, I was just getting something ready for work.
You sounded like you were like
sure.
eating gravel chips.
Yeah.
I went to the gas station during the podcast.
Yeah, this might be something to them trying to get some legitimacy and get into a specified conference and be settled. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a ploy for Liberty to get some quick, the quick wins, if you will, and to get some legitimacy in the FBS.
Because they were, what, like
So,
6-6 this year?
Yeah.
That's not terrible.
Yeah, but they played New Mexico State twice, I think, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, they beat a team twice. I think it was New Mexico State, I think. I don't know, it was one of those weird teams they played twice.
I think Hugh Freeze should open up a strip club and call it The Blind Side.
Ooh. Nice.
What do you think? Me and him can go into business together?
Yeah, too much, like, religious rhetoric, though. I don't know if you could take that.
I don't know, man.
Be
If
too
he got,
much.
like, Sandra Bullock to be one of the, like,
Oh.
A squad.
Oh, Sanders, your thing?
No, but
Oh, okay.
Sandra Bullock in The Blind Side was looking good.
She was. I've been adamant about that too. Actually, I've had an argument about somebody about how good
I
she
actually
looked in
don't
that movie.
overall think she's, like, super attractive.
I'm actually the same way, but I think that movie brought
Same
up
with,
the
like,
best.
Hilary Swank.
Oh, yeah, but that's, I mean, come on. I don't think that's a fair comparison. Hilary Swank is kind of, like, not legit. I mean, not compared to Sandra Bullock. That's seems not as good. I don't know. Unless you're talking about the Karate Kid time, which would be a different story. But
Then she was Dudish.
Right. Well,
Wow, Liberty opens up with Syracuse next year. Wow, they actually have a decent schedule.
really good.
I mean, opening up, they got Syracuse, Buffalo, Rutgers, BYU, Virginia.
That's good.
Or was that this year? That wasn't this year, right?
They did
That
play
was not-
Virginia this year, but I wouldn't be surprised. They're right next to each other, so I wouldn't be surprised they would play.
So here's their home. Here's their last
Norfolk
year.
to Charlottesville is a quick trip.
They beat ODU. They lost to Army. They lost to North Texas. They beat New Mexico. They lost to New Mexico State. I don't think they played. Oh, they did play New Mexico
They played them
State.
twice. Yeah,
That's so weird. Why would they do that?
they were trying to schedule games. It was a struggle to get games.
They scheduled New Mexico State twice and beat them once.
Okay.
That's interesting. Oh, they played. Oh, that's right. They played Liberty, or they played Auburn. That didn't go so well for them.
Yeah.
But 6-6.
No, they're fine.
They almost beat UMass, the triple overtime game, 62-59. Hugh Freeze can do some things there.
Oh yeah, he'll win a bunch of games. I don't think there's any question.
They were 5-1 at home. That's pretty good.
It'll be good. Yeah, it's interesting. They had. We'll see about how the recruiting goes, because from what I heard, that Turner did not recruit all that well coming into this season. That a lot of the players, especially on offense, were from the last couple of years. So they
just had like a 1-year wonder coach, or did they fire their coach?
he retired.
Oh, he retired.
So his goal was to bring them from FCS to FBS, the transition.
Purgatory.
Yeah. It was a strange sort of thing they had worked out, and it just kind of looked like he. I mean, still a good coach, no question about that. But the recruiting side of it, I think, because he knew this was going to be his time up, that he didn't really put forth the full effort for what it looks like.
They're going to play New Mexico State twice again next year too.
Oh, they're doing that again?
Yeah, November 30th in Virginia and October 5th in Las Cruces.
Interesting.
They're in a good part of the country, though. It's a good part of the country that, being in the southeast, and there's a lot of really good players in the DMV area too. The Maryland, DC, Virginia area. Actually
I knew what you meant.
has a lot of strong football there. So not only that, but obviously going further south into Georgia and Florida, which we know. I think that it's actually a good spot for Liberty if they can get established in a conference. They could be they could be good. Just like the Charlotte job, I was surprised they didn't get a higher profile guy when Charlotte fired their coach and got rid of that. That seems like a program that's perfect to rise in a relatively large city that's growing and awesome. I'd be shocked if Charlotte isn't a legit team soon as well.
I mean, I can see them going to CUSA. I don't think they'd jump to the American, but CUSA or Sunbelt would probably be maybe the MAC, but I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
MAC might be a little west for them.
No, but it would be great though. It would be a good infusion for the MAC. Yeah, it'd be.
The Sunbelt's got 10 teams currently, so
You never know. There'll be a lot of transition as the years go on with teams moving forward.
especially when
back.
UCF goes to a Power 5 conference, the American's going to need somebody. So.
Yep, and I think along with UCF, I think Houston's gone within a few years as well. I don't think there's any question.
Well, I mean, it's all about the Big 12. I mean, I don't see the SEC going to 16. I think they're at 14 now.
14.
They're at 14 now, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't see them going to 16 teams. I don't see the ACC. I believe the ACC is at 12 right now. No, I am incorrect. They're at 14 as well,
And the Big Ten is at 14, I believe.
which is still weird.
Yeah.
The Big Ten hasn't been 10 since the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember
They had 11.
They had 11 for a while. Yeah.
Strange.
Big 11. And obviously UCF's not going to the Pac-12 or the Big. Well, they could go to the Big 12. Oh, big yawn. Speaking of, I think it makes sense. Houston and UCF to the Big 12. You stretch all the way north to Iowa. You stretch all the way south to Orlando, Florida. Stretch all the way west to, I guess, Iowa again. And then you stretch all the way east to Florida and West Virginia.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown with how the conferences will realign and what will happen. I think the only thing we can count on is that it's hard to join. The Pac-12 is the one that's pretty limited. There's obviously not nearly as many schools.
I mean, Fresno and Utah State could go there.
And Boise
could go there.
Yeah, it's those Mountain West teams.
Hawaii could go there, actually, for a
I think that Hawaii. The problem with Hawaii is the travel and they don't have a very strong base of athletics, and it's not a.
I mean, it's a long shot. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I know that's always been the issue with Hawaii is how that university.
I mean, you got to figure if UNLV's freaking basketball program could have not, could have stayed semi-relevant, they could have pushed themselves into the Big 12 just simply or Pac-12 because of that.
Yeah. Oh, if they could just get some facilities too. Oh my goodness. For football, it's like a high school. It's horrible.
It is. It's bad. But I mean, there's no money unless the Fertitas start pouring it in. Which
they probably shouldn't. I'm not saying they should pour money into the football program. It's sad that it's.
But I think the Fertitas have enough pull that they say, hey, look, when conferences start coming up, hey, you're gonna look at San Diego State, who still plays in Qualcomm, or hey, we're about to be in they're about to be in the Raider Stadium. I mean, how would you not like Pac-12 games inside the Raider Stadium?
It's true. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, it would certainly be much more fun. No question about it. But San Diego State too. They really should have their own facility. That would be kind of nice, especially on campus. That stadium is so far away from their campus too. It's really it's not ideal. I don't like when the stadiums are so far off from what's actually going on. It's too bad because that's a cool place. That area in South San Diego there is fantastic. There you go.
What do you think about Mike McCarthy, Token?
I'm not surprised the Packers gave him the X. I mean, just how poor their season's going. I think he was containing Rodgers and not letting him perform his fullest. And like I said on the beginning here, I think you even said this as well. I think he was on the hot seat, and I'm surprised he almost lasted this long. So,
was he coach in 2019? Head coach?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I would say so, but I'm not sure where.
Fair enough.
That's good. Yeah, that's a really good question. Really, coach. Yeah, seems like that would be a tough spot.
I don't think he goes out with the pros. I think he stays with. If going to be a head coach or not. I think depends who wants him and whatnot. So,
excellent. But it's the McCarthy question is good. I'm with you guys. And when you brought this up earlier, Aaron, I was 100% in agreement that it's just the McCarthy sort of train kind of had run its course,
right?
And he didn't really seem to be improving. Yeah, they've had some injuries. Having Rodgers get hurt a couple of times over the last few years has not certainly helped, but. It just hasn't been that same dynamic offense, and defensively they have not. They never got back to the point where they were able to be consistent, and it's.
Well, the question is though, now that you're paying Rodgers $33 million, will this offense get any better? I mean, at some point, Devontae Adams is going to want money.
Sure,
no
question.
You're not luring big time free agents there. I mean. Call Jimmy Graham what you want. He's not a big-time free agent.
It's tough. It's tough in Green Bay, yeah.
So you have to draft well, and you have to develop. And that's all Aaron Rodgers is going to be doing for the next 5 to 6 years or however long his career lasts. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's very true. My guess is if you get a team desperate enough, and I don't know where Cleveland stands or whatever other teams that end up moving on from their coaches. A team that's desperate enough to have some sort of continuity or have a coach that isn't going to completely blow you up and at least won't be embarrassing. You don't have to take a huge risk because McCarthy will. I think he could be a guy you could bring in and know you're going to get something. Is it super flashy? Is it potential Super Bowl type of winning guy? I don't think so, but it beats for some teams. They might think about it beating the risk of hiring another mid to late 30s offensive mind who might totally get it, and it could be a McDermott type of hire, or it would be someone that totally blows up and never just never fully grasps the head coaching position, and you get or one of those college fade outs, a great college coach that goes to the NFL and struggles mightily that we've seen over the years from even some of the greats like Nick Saban. So
that's
I don't
the
know.
thing too, because we're about to get. Well, we're having at least one. We're probably going to get a second rookie quarterback without a coach this year with the Jets.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's it. It's interesting. Is that the thought? I haven't been following the coaching changes of thought before,
Well,
but
I'd say when they were 3-3, it wasn't a thought, but now that they're 3-9, it probably is. Even though Darnold hasn't been in for the last, I think, 3 games.
I get it. Yeah, no, they've been a disaster for at least a few seasons now. So I totally get it. Makes sense. Well, the dogs are animated. They're excited. So
all right, let's wrap it up here. I want to thank Token Tony for giving us a little time before he had to go to work. And obviously Tony Johnson for being here. I want to thank 12 Ounce Sports Radio, VGK Pop Sockets, and Chai Poker. Not a lot going on sports-wise this weekend, but what are you, other than the NFL, is there anything going on? I know you're a UFC guy. Anything going on in your world UFC-wise that you're interested in?
Yep, great. It's a great slate here this Saturday. Pay-per-view. I think most of the fight fans are. This is one of the most look-forward-to fights of the year with Brian Ortega against Max Holloway. A lot of the strong pundits, or at least the guys that I follow, seem to think that the underdog Ortega has a chance. The line currently is Holloway at -130 and Ortega at +100. These are two of the most skilled and great tacticians, if you will, in the division right now. So I'm pretty jacked about that. And not only the main, but there's some of the undercard has some great fights. And one of my favorite fighters to watch, Gunnar Nelson, finally returns after long knee surgery and wasn't able to get a good opponent for about 6 months. But he's finally back on a different camp.
My guy Robbie Lawler hasn't fought in a while.
He is he's on the card next, fighting a really good up and comer. I just name is escaping me, but he
Is he on the Bones Jones card?
the one right after, I believe, in January.
January.
Yes, I believe so. So yeah, Lawler will be back. So, but yeah, no, this is a great card in Toronto, and then we lead up into Johnny Bones Jones right here in Las Vegas. In
that's
a
at
few
T-Mobile,
weeks.
right?
That's at the T. So
Do you remember the first fight, Johnny Bones versus Gustafson?
I do.
I still think Gustafson won that one. I think the only thing that saved Jones was his reputation and that elbow straight to the forehead.
Yeah, that was a big shot. But I think
That
the
one-
reputation almost probably swayed it, and that pisses me off. As you know, I don't deal with the whole reputation type of stuff in any sport very well.
As
But
ball washes of the P5, he's not a ball washer of Johnny Bones Jones.
I know you like that. But if I had to be a judge in that fight, I would have voted for Gustafson. Yeah.
I would concur with that statement, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I also would concur with Daniel Cormier's decision not to fight Jones anymore too. So
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't
nothing
either at
left
all.
to prove at that point.
I know she's a big fave, but on the undercard, the last of the FS1 card,
Shevchenko.
in the
undercard.
undercard,
Okay.
I love Claudia Gadelha over Nina Ansaroff. She's -330 right now. I know that's pretty high, but just even for some
win's a
watching
win,
fun, this is night and day. This is like they quote, men against boys, women versus girls. This is Gadelha is better in every singular aspect. Ansaroff has already thought about retirement a bunch. She's just not at all prepared for this thing. Didn't even think she had an opponent this year. I don't think she's ready to go. I think this is going to be a disaster. I like Gadelha, maybe even in the first round on this one. So you find a good prop, maybe one of those first round finish props.
You find a lot of those finished first rounds for the undercards?
Nope. Unfortunately, that's why I was
Usually for
careful
the-
with saying it. Yeah,
Yeah.
usually the main stuff, exactly.
You
So,
never know.
you never know.
Yeah, you never know if you can find it somewhere.
But Gadelha, I like big over Ansaroff. That's my main wager on this card. There's going to be some more as the day proceeds here, but that would be the one I'd
Maybe
bet
I'll
on.
give Tony Johnson access to the Twitter for Saturday night.
Cool. I'll take it.
Cool. All right, well, let's rock and roll. That's about it time-wise as we got here.
Excellent.
Again, I want to thank the sponsors, VGK Pop Sockets, Chai Poker, and obviously 12 Ounce Sports Radio. We want to thank you, the listener. Please interact with us and engage with us. Vegas Squares, the website, vegassquares.com. We also have our email, vegassquares@gmail.com, and our Twitter, @VegasSquares. We're also on Facebook. You can search Vegas Squares as well. Instagram, Vegas Squares Podcast, but I haven't updated that in God knows how long. But, yeah, get in touch with us. If you want to be a part of the show, you can always get in touch with me. We love to have people come on and talk sports and sports gambling.
Especially while you're in Arizona. If you get some others.
We may need some replacement hosts. Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely. If you are into YouTube pimple popping videos, we're full. Sorry, we've got one already. We've met our quota. All right, we're out of here. Later.